John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
There it is, Camp Pierce.
So what do you think?
We're gonna get your daughter back. We'll find a way in.
Pretty steep climb, don't you think, Clark? Assuming we make it through the gate. There's got to be at least 50 armed troops down there, judging by the barracks.
Before we make any assumptions, give us the day to watch the base. Gather what facts we can.
Clark, we've been going non-stop. Look at us. We started with 40. We're down to 12. We lost Jack, for God's sake.
14. Luke and I makes 14.
I'm talking people who can actually do something.
I'm cleaning your gun, Hanley.
Okay, now. People are welcome to voice their concerns. Anybody else?
No offense, but how many more of us are we willing to lose? All to get one back?
One? She's not one, she's Sarah.
You know what I mean.
Names are important. Without them, people are a lot easier to forget.
Tell you what I'm not forgetting. That he's the one who led them right to us.
We don't know that.
He hears them in his head. You think that's not a two-way street?
It's not like that.
He saved our lives back in the fog. He stopped that alien in its tracks.
Just by telling it to. What else has he been telling you?
Back off.
Why? You afraid we might find the truth?
I said back off!
Everybody just take a breath.
You were keeping things from us. That alien object thing?
You? Of all people? Really? Okay, fine. Fine, go. Leave. I don't need this. I'll do it myself.
You're wrong, you know. You do need them. You're gonna need them down there. Stay. Talk to them.
I tried talking to them.
No, not as soldiers. As people. Scared people. Risking their lives. Show them who you are.
In med school, I spent a week shadowing a doctor in the cancer ward. I watched people find out that death was living inside their bodies.
Where's this going?
Got somewhere to be?
I'd forgotten about that. Or just pushed it down, pushed it away like so much else. The doctor, he said something to me at the end of that week. He said, the ones who have the best chance of survival are the ones who are willing to fight for something more than themselves. Maybe it's their families, their loved ones, but something. Something bigger than survival. And I forgot. Until I met you guys. Until I saw you fighting. Risking your lives. Giving your lives. For something more. I'm sorry you lost loved ones looking for mine. Pain like that is... But if you want to stop, push it away, I understand. Believe me. That's what I would have done before I met you. All of you.
Hey guys, welcome. Hodge, even at Potential Healing, serving the truth with you once more. Thank you for being here and thanking, as always, for allowing me to be a part of your journey. I do sincerely mean that. The way the world is and the volumes of data and paths to go down and interests and variables out there to engage us to explore and things like that. The volume is just exponential and there's so many things to look at. So we all try and cram so much in the time that we have of the day that we can employ ourselves and our awareness into such things like this. Even if you do explore an individual like me that offers perspectives such as I do on top of all that. So I am sincerely grateful for you being here and allowing me to be a part of your journey. I always try to raise my bar and offer the best condensed truth codex for you to help understand your nature and the reality, what's going on around you, and so we can all formulate a appreciation of what is actually going on versus what we're told or what we're offered. And the real thing and logic that I've gone into is the multidimensional aspects of what is going on, because I feel, as is when energy healing is done from an energy level, it percolates through to the physical. So I start to high up. Not that I'm worried about what people think or anything. I go where my perceptions are relative to the data I acquire and accumulate over time, or as I have been going into my own unknown of what I get without any reference out there. It's a new territory for me that I'm committing to that, the level I am at the moment, because I feel like I'm stepping into that void of leadership. It's not, like, leadership for me is what I've said in the past. It's not about wanting people to follow you. It's about seeing a void and stepping into that gap and filling that vulnerability, so to speak. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. I'm leaving this quite late in the day, close to the time of when I normally do it. So this may not be a long one, but I might get into a rhythm and just really let it rip and get into my flow. It's been a very, very interesting 2 weeks since I did the last Echos 12, Battle for the Stargates and Humanity's Free Will. It was a very, very big, potent release for me. One of my greatest releases or creations so far in all the variables that I offered. It came after, like it's been for me, 2 weeks of very hard healing on myself, raising my bar. I've hit the gym pretty hard the last few weeks as well to get my physical on my game with the hits that's been coming. The Echos 12 I took 2 weeks after October 7, which was a very big proactive GSF work relative to defending the land of Australia, relative to the voice and implementation of a new constitution which was prevented, right? But I feel for you guys, with the heads up with what's going on, there's an effort to impose the digital ID in Australia and the world. And if you really listen to that Echos 12, I included a clip of a pretty epic being named Sabrina Wallace that for me has filled in a very big missing gap of all the targeting and energy stuff that's going on to our body. If you really paid attention to that, and you've been across me, I've always talked about the spleen, and going back a while I talk about the body consciousness. It's like I deal with people's bodies, and their body's a separate consciousness that I interact with. So say I ask questions to an individual, and when they process it, the body spits out the answer and I'm clearing the body. So it's usually I'm dealing with those sort of variables when I'm doing my healing, and her appreciation of the physical, like the networking of our bodies together, being the cause of a lot of the illnesses that, you know, there's just this Mr. Magoo-itis of, oh, I just have no idea what's going on sort of thing. And when you appreciate that and what's being done to our bodies, I think an aspect of the movies, The Matrix, thinking that we actually need to be lying down in pods to be connected up is a variable that we need to drop of an assumption where we're out of consciousness when we're actually awake and it's all connected to us all the time. So from my perspective, the effort to roll out the digital ID laws sort of thing is an effort to actually, for the regional governments that have acquiesced into, say, the WHO, World Economic Forum, UN sort of centralized control of the new order sort of thing, if you get my drift. This digital ID isn't about security and the internet, it's actually giving away the region, say our countries, giving away sovereignty to us individually into that system, right? So I just want to give you that heads up from what I get, right? So I've had a bit of pushback and all this sort of, like the most pushback I've sort of ever had. So I might be showing an image to make it a bit funny here, but I show this to my allies and stuff. It's like, oh, you don't like that? That's exactly what I'll do, right? So yeah, I've had interactions with the Groody network, people getting Trojan horsed and all this sort of stuff. And that last video, as I said, Echos 12 was so big, I isolated myself and healed like 12 hours a day sort of thing, and really was trying to get underneath some stuff. And I got clear to actually brew, say, the Stargate reversal sort of stuff in that. How the Sabrina Wallace sort of variable fits in from my perspective of all this internet sort of thing to actually energetically and remotely access our codes and harvest our codes, right? She wouldn't offer that variable, but I can appreciate her mechanics of what she's understood and the mechanics of the reality to actually link up to all that. And the second half of that video, it combined some Asher stuff from what went on with the Ayani massacre 25,000 years ago, where they were accessing our codes And I might have shown a clip from Assassin's Creed where they use technology, the movie 2016, where they use technology to go in and hack our past life memories and stuff like that. So my assumption is there's that tech out there, we just don't have it in our reality and stuff. So that's the metaphor of what was going on back before the Ayani massacre, to get all the codes for all the Stargates and stuff like that. And so that video was designed to be a big download. And I do long videos to train up people's psychic stamina. Like these frackers, they don't take lunch breaks and stuff like that. And I might show a metaphor of an image right now. I used to show one like this, right? And it's the metaphor of our journey over time. And we have ups and downs and dips and stuff. And the system, to me, they're sort of preying on us all the time. And they're waiting for our dips. And then they compound them by hammering us at their worst moments. Okay? So a lot of my training, a lot of my emotional mastery sort of stuff, and going out and pushing yourself hard when it's worse to get yourself strong. I used to talk about the Michael Jordan Last Dance video series, which is mystical training from my perspective of there's no substitute for hard work, right? So for me, I've always tried to master what I can control, so it makes what I don't have mastery over and is a potential vulnerability easier to manage when there is trouble, right? So another metaphor quote that I like to employ is, you don't know the truth about people when things are good, you know it when things are bad, right? So say doing GSF work and stuff, you can afford no gaps, right? And I might have the little image relative to gaps that I used to show in the past, just to keep it simple and keep it flowing, because I don't have a lot of time. That at the lower dimensional levels, the gaps might be tiny cracks, alright? But when you go doing epic missions at a higher level and stuff, the gaps can be chasms, and they can be vulnerabilities that you can get hacked to actually derail everyone else. And I've dealt with this constantly for the last 15 years, alright? I've been doing this a long time, alright? And I've been asked to step up more by her, so I've been working with her quite a lot at a high level with the 10,000 central suns and stuff like that. So if you watched GSF 29, I included a lot of the influences and stuff and the allies that we have, and the recalibration number 6, the earth line in the universal sand. I offered a lot of our spirit team potentials that we have, like Mars at 22D, the 1000D dragons, the 10,000 central suns, Earth Mother, who is furious at these fractures on her surface that are not welcome anymore, that are on borrowed time, right? Literally borrowed time. Right. So I'm going to show you another image. So this is one I drew just recently. So this is a metaphor of our journey, right? Our journey is from the unknown and discovering from the known of what we know and discovering the unknown. So say this is 4 images, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So top 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we go into our journey, we don't know much. We know a bit, but it's all about the discovery of the unknown, right? And it costs a lot of life force potentially at the start to really get going, right? But the more you get aware, the more efficient it gets, ideally, right? And the unknown is vast and exponential. And I love that journey of discovery, like I've always said, right? So what it eventually realized is that, just to get to the point, maybe you guys haven't experienced this or you haven't become aware of the experience of this, but there's frackers out there that are in the spiritual community by design to derail us and to prevent us knowing everything. So the more we know, the more resistance we get, because we're coming to a barrier of understanding of what's going on, right? And they're totally aligned with the occupation of Earth to distort us, playing teacher roles and allies, and you know, the system supports them and draws a lot of attention to them when people align with truth and the pure source and earth aligned sort of thing probably get a lot of resistance and stuff, right? So some of the first mystical experiences might be you get hammered by this stuff and you get smashed, and it's sort of a confirmation that you're on the right path. But all the stuff I know and I've learnt and I've imparted, it's all by my journey in this, and I feel it's very common for many people that don't understand it. So that's why I've been imparting my information, right? So then what happens is we keep growing and stuff, and say these frackers steal our codes and steal our life force and try and sabotage our journey into the known, alright? Like to uncover the unknown and explore the unknown. But as we uncover more, for the unknown to become more known, we take away their security, because a lot of these individuals, they rely on the unknown to not be seen. They do it in the secret on the multi-dimensional levels that most people don't appreciate and stuff like that. And so the more that we discover also has a negative effect to that, because it costs them more to maintain the unknown barrier, but also they don't harvest as much. And also the energy efficiency to maintain the unknown gets reduced, so it costs them more, so they have less life force, which has a detrimental effect on the barrier of our unknown, alright? And the resistance to us knowing. We become stronger, they become weaker, but then they get backed into a corner and they go harder and more negative, and because they don't give a shit, alright? Their ultimate fate is dusting or ejection from our universe, so they've got nothing to lose. They don't accommodate the laws of the universe and all that sort of stuff. So us being nice and all that, light, kumbaya, love and light, it plays into their benefit, if you will. So then eventually what happens is we break through that barrier of the unknown and we see them for what they are. They no longer can harvest our energy. We get our life force back. We get on a parabolic roll, and our ability to discover it is only increased over time, right? And they get busted. And so that's what's going on for myself and the core sort of group. It may not seem like it at the moment, but we've got an enormous number of allies. Like I said, the 10,000 central suns and all that sort of stuff, right? So this is what it is about. This is the journey into our unknown. It's not light and love, and it's not as idealistic as what we would like. There's definitely players out there that do not want us to be aware, because we're in a war that we don't want to be or accept and all that sort of stuff. But it is what it is, and we have to accept it and step into it and be what we have always had the potential and meant to be. Alright, so that's where my posture has changed over the years when I've discovered all this. And as I said, I've seen a void and a gap, and I've stepped into that leadership, and I'll impart what I discover, and it's up to you to process it, discern it, accept it, or find another path or whatever, alright? But as always, I appreciate you being here. These are very complex things that I'm trying to make very simple and elegant, because perhaps you've been under the pump, right? And you haven't known it, and you're a good person and you take on all the responsibility. And as I've said in the recalibration shows, most of you guys out there, you're probably only 2% of what's going on is yours, right? It's just from the unknown at this point. But just see you're relentless for being here, and you've got enormous potential before you, that you're going to get to that aha moment and break through the bullshit of your own journey and see it for yourself, alright? So it's getting dark. It'll probably get dark soon, and I want to talk about the moon. One of the big variables that I offered in that last video was about working out from my perspective, and we can all discern this and explore it further and stuff. I'm stepping out into the open field, ready for being the target of smashing, of saying this, alright? But in that last video, one of the big things I realized on the day that I was doing the video was, from my perspective, is that the moon is Woormwood, aka Battlestar Mibiru, aka the Death Star, alright? So it's very interesting that, you know, in Star Wars, George Lucas, it's an amazing story and we all love it, right? And I'm not being critical of that, but the intro line is, in a galaxy a long time ago, in a time far, far away. It's actually probably more recent, and this solar system, from my perspective. So a lot of the whole galactic history is how vast the universe is and stuff like that. What I'll invite you to do is just condense it into our solar system in this instant, alright? So what happened in the last video, I offered that and I stayed away, and then I put my head up to find out what had happened to a few of my allies around me, and Captain Marvel was almost taken out twice. Another person was in hospital for weeks and stuff. All of us and the others had all had our life force and codes raided. So people that have code stealers, that we've claimed them all back and got them back for people, for them to do public stuff, they've got to go out and code raids to actually have a relevance. So the greedy network was in full effect, and yeah, it's just been really interesting. So collecting evidence and data and stuff like that. One of the reasons why Captain Marvel's been hit so hard, and this you guys will love, is that she actually works with horses, and what it came to be realized in the last couple of weeks was that Natalie has actually been working with her and us, and she's on our side. So Natalie was obviously an Ayani High Priestess, High Council member, that was a trophy of Thoth, alright? And what we've worked out is these Anunnaki Leviathans kept a lot of trophies of us, alright? So we recovered a lot of the trophies. Another thing is we recovered a lot of the abundance codes. They had everyone's abundance codes to say when I created Galactic History 2.0, and it made an enormous amount of money and generated a huge amount of income, plus all the other videos I've done in the past. My abundance codes were stolen, right? So we found out everyone that sort of interacted with, they've stolen everyone's abundance codes to actually generate the income and all that sort of stuff. Another big thing we found out this week is all this moon stuff unlocked a lot of things for a lot of people. So when I offered that the moon was Woormwood and it was like a prison guard of Earth, so many things in people's awesome pattern recognition skill and perception just kicked in, and it just confirmed so much that doesn't add up in this reality. And I had to put all the people around me back together, and they were very profound sessions, because my infinite sessions, basically when I clear out all the cracks and the dams in people, then their infinite potential launches, and a lot of people are super psychics from that. So one of the awesome beings, and I would always love to say the names and specifics of where certain concepts come from. I work out a lot, but then in sharing what I get, it unlocks it with people and they impart their perceptions. I would absolutely love to share where these come from that aren't mine, because I never take credit for anything that's not mine. I've got enough to take credit for, so I love to share the original source of it with you guys, so you can, if that source is somewhere where you want to go, then you can track it down yourself and explore, because that's an aspect of my infinite potential, to allow you to find your truth, even if it's with other people, and I'll never stop doing that. But at the moment I'm being very cautious, just to protect the people around me. The one person worked out that, well, because when I healed Metatron, it was aiming at his oversoul. So I might show you the Metatron image quick. So I drew this very quick. So this is the all-seeing eye dollar sort of Metatron sort of metaphor. So you guys might want to pause this. I'm just going to get it through very quick. So in Galactic Special Forces 27, I offered a rationale of how bad things were back then, as the reason going for this really big chess move to actually invite Metatron to come back to the fold, so to speak. So I offered that the universe was corrupted from the get-go. It wasn't Source's fault. It was these invaders that set him up for a failure, and they've been using him to open up the Wizard Act to bring all the negative shit through and harvest from our universe sort of stuff. So when he had the truth, he had the choice to switch. And long story short, I offered the Oversoul the rationale to clear, right? And choose in his own journey by giving him the data space for that self-actualization to choose for himself. So that's what I do with people in sessions. I give them the data so that they can see it for themselves, because sure, you can always tell someone what's going on, but when people see it for themselves and they see it all, it's such a potent healing. It's vastly more superior than an external validation sort of thing, right? So this Metatron stuff has caused a lot of conflict with a lot of people with me, and that's cool. But if you haven't watched the Incarnation War series, where I get into mass incarnates and all the big scales of things, then there's a lot of context in there. And I have actually answered this question when I'm saying in other videos, I would invite that you've had wiping tech in you that's wiping you from hearing it. Because I know a lot of you guys are very hardcore with my stuff, but just really ask yourself, how much have you retained of it, all right? And I would offer proactively that you're probably being wiped to prevent you memorizing stuff, which you should have the skills, because I know many of you are badasses like me, all right? So just contemplate that, okay? Because the question is that there's still negative shit going on with Metatron, and absolutely. If you listen to those videos that I've said in the past, I've said at least once or twice after that Metatron GSF 27, I said we actually need to go harder for the negative subspecies that are still aligned to the negative. Like, not everything was cleared. I gave the Oversoul an option to clear, which was like pincing it. It was like going for the head of the snake sort of thing, like in Denzel Washington in The Equalizer, right? So this drawing here is like a metaphor of, say, 60% of instantly wanted to be good. They've been waiting for this. But then there's some really negative aspects that have dug in deep and gone extra hardcore negative. So if you're seeing the negative aspects of the Metatron stuff still out there, that's what I said we've got to be watchful of. And that's why in my revocation I said we need to go harder at them, right? And frack them off out of our universe. The universe does not want them in here, all right? And I wish I could impart how much gratitude I've had from the frickin' universe for doing that. 250 billion years of frackery, all right? So I don't really care what you think or feel about me. I would invite that you need to do the contrarian of me, of why you might have a negative of me, because perhaps this negative shit has gone at you, because maybe I've done a lot of good for you and you're a threat to the system, like I said at the start, but you've got gaps, alright? Discern me all you want. I offer the contrarian view all the time. Reverse everything I'm saying, but reverse everything everyone else is saying, because people have been hacked, alright? The reason why I'm talking about this Oversoul stuff, right, is in one of these sessions, this is just another image of a metaphor of how our Oversouls can get hacked. The day after I did the Metatron healing, Carlene went in and hacked my Oversoul right in mid-session. I've got an awesome ally out there that actually repaired mine, and we went and clubbed Saturn on the 20th of August, alright? And I know it was Carlene, because she's been going at me and doing very negative stuff for a long time, right? But what we discovered in this session was that the whole Thoth team, greedy team, right, they'd actually captured millions of people's Oversouls and inserted negative Oversouls into people. So the whole doubt thing and all that, I would offer that anyone that's sort of been around this stuff, this is going through time and backwards in time, right? Because the same thing was going on with capturing people's codes and putting them in the mainframes, and September 1 we ejected that big mainframe into the sun to be destroyed and stuff. So there's a lot of this infrastructure in place, and that's where the Sabrina variable definitely plays in, alright? Sabrina Wallace. But yeah, in the last 2 weeks we actually rescued everyone's Oversoul. So on top of all the codes and all that sort of stuff, and the abundance codes that have said you might want to do the revocation with the intent of all the violations and include that your oversoul has been hacked, and especially if a negative oversoul has been inserted. So what I'm drawing there is, like, say your perceptions of a being might be positive if they're positive, but say if your oversoul has been hacked, like at the bottom, then say me, who's positive, it's skewing your perceptions to reverse it, to make you think that I'm the negative one when these frackers have done it to you, alright? I'll just offer that, because I want to get to the point. So it's getting quite dark. And there's another image that I might be showing next to me that's very similar to this, that I've shown many times. And what we worked out, that Earth, her consciousness was trapped inside Earth, alright? And getting to the point on August 22nd, I did a big on Captain after she had negative animal magi work to almost kill her from horse sort of stuff, right? Like a horse got taken over and kicked her in the head and almost killed her sort of thing. We worked out that that's Angela Miller. So Angela Miller had a whole network around the world. Greedy Queen, who wanted to have Andrew's child. She had a whole network around the world that was trying to taser Earth's heart, alright? That we had to bust up, okay, in the last couple of weeks. But going back to August 22nd, after that we did a big GSF and we got through to the Earth heart to bring the pure emerald heart energy to the surface and took over all the obelisks and stuff. So there was a masculine grid over the Earth that we got through, alright? So this image is a bit like that one, okay? So there's other videos that I talk about this. This has the radio body, the Akasha Bullshita, that overlays Earth to distract us from the true Earth records and consciousness. There's a phantom Earth where a lot of stuff is done, and that yellow-orange thing is Woormwood, Battlestar Mibiru, the Death Star, aka, that was hollowed out from Earth. From Maldek, okay? So I'll just do a bit of a solar system overview here, right? So there's this mysterious asteroid belt that no one seems to be able to be conclusive of. All these very highly aware beings who just have Mr. Magoo-itis, alright? So what I might do is offer a clip relative to Asher of the solar system overview here that I found. It was really cool how I came about it, alright? Because I just went random. I knew there was Maldek sort of stuff in the solar system, but I had no idea where it was. And I just put this random sort of playlist on my phone that I hadn't listened to for a while. It was the first time I opened it and slept with it overnight. And I woke up to this section, alright? So I'm going to impart a section of it. What I might do at the end is part like half an hour of it, because it's really cool, alright? But I'll just show this clip now relative to the overview of the solar system. I'm not sure how long it might be. It might be 5-10 minutes, alright? And I'll come back. So enjoy.
Alrighty, now this is our universal cathar grid over here, and it has gate connections. I believe this one has the universal level, is the big one, like the big letters. Underneath it, it gives you, where you see an R after a thing, ignore that for now, I'll talk about that later. But where you see GSG, that's Galactic Stargate. So it shows you where the galactic stargates interface. Now our galactic stargates, the ones that were listed on there, we have Galactic Stargate 1 is Mercury, Galactic 2 is Venus, Galactic 3 is Earth, Galactic 4 is Mars, Galactic 5 was a planet called Maldak. Maldak was here a while back, and I forget, it was in seeding 2, human seeding 2 on Earth, that it was destroyed in a major war with the Anunnaki races. It was destroyed for a reason. It was part of a plan. A plan they put the next phase in our seeding 3. Maldak was a planet. It used to be here. I'll show you where that is on the other one too, that graph that we just heard. I want to show you where the galactics run after you see them here. I'll show you how that applies to here. So we're on Galactic Stargate 5. Used to be in a planet called Maldak, that would have been between, this is where the asteroid belt is now. The asteroid belt is part of what's left of Maldak. The other part of Maldak we're going to learn about tonight in Metatronics. The other part of Maldak is now known as Woormwood. All right, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's another part of Earth that was Terra, actually Terra in density 2, which remember is Alcyone when we look up in Pleiades. Once upon a time, there was another place, another piece of Terra. Terra almost blew apart completely. One of its pieces became a planet called Tiamat. So anybody that has been studying any Nibiruan-based, Pleiadian Nibiruan-based New Age teachings, you will find reference to their planet Tiamat that Earth used to be half of, therefore Earth belongs to them. Does not, but that's their story. There's false history being put out here by channels who don't realize who they're talking to. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So all of these things, you'd be amazed at what this stuff ties into. The work that other people are doing, I didn't even know. And one level of revelation after another is, oh my God. It's like, is anybody going to like me on this planet? You know? Because what it ended up being was we're exposing things that showed what other movements were about. And we thought like certain movements, I thought they were good guys. And you find out that, oh my God, they're working this agenda, and even worse, oh no, I'm on the other side. I don't want to be on the other side of anybody. I just want to love people. You know? So anyway, all this stuff ties in with a bunch of history pieces that are coming from various different directions in the New Age movement and the UFO movement. Tiamat is, we don't have to worry about that right now. We'll talk more about that when we get into the Woormwood issue. So the other half of Maldak is now called Woormwood, and we'll find out by the end of the night where that is, what that is, and why we need to know. That's the thing that was mentioned in the Bible, in Revelations, that had to do with the end time scenario. All right. Our universal Stargate 6 was Sirius B. It's Jupiter here. That was the 6th planet. When you put Maldak where it belongs, that was the 5th planet. This would be the 6th one. The 7th in the galactic level is Saturn. The 8th on the galactic level is Uranus. The 9th is Neptune. The 10th is Pluto. And something very interesting with these two has taken place. There was a planet in the 11th position that was originally called Chiron, C-H-I-R-O-N. There was a planet in the 12th position, the 12th planet, called Nibiru. There were things done over a course that you'll see when the wars took place, that these alterations in our galactic structure were done by certain forces that were progressively taking over this system. Nibiru was literally using major Stargate nasty technology stuff that if you can use Christos physics, you take the Christos away from it and invert it, you can do some nasty stuff with Keylontic science when you pervert it. You can move planets. You can destroy planets. You can suck galaxies into black holes. So, once upon a time, Chiron was planet 11. Nibiru was planet 12. Now, at certain periods in time that we'll talk about later, this planet was a small planet. It was broken into two pieces. One piece of it was put in orbit around Pluto, and it is now one of Pluto's moons called Charon. Nibiru was bumped into the 11th position because they needed it there for a certain thing called the Beast that we'll talk about later. The other piece of Chiron, one became Charon, Pluto's moon. The other piece is a thing that our scientists have recently spotted between Saturn and Uranus, I believe, isn't it? It's on the other graph. I believe it's between Saturn and Uranus. It is a body of some sort that our scientists have discovered floating around in a really weird orbit, like kind of an erratic type orbit between these two planets in our galaxy. So this was a natural Stargate structure. We originally had Chiron up there and Nibiru up there. This has been altered from its normal, natural divine blueprint because there's a very big technology in operation here that we'll talk about later. But I want you to know where. These are the universal Stargates. These are the galactic ones, so you see where they fit. Now the planetary ones. And there's something else called Q sites. With a history that we'll cover bits of tonight, you'll understand why the Halls of Amenti were created. The need for them arose 550 million years ago down here. They were created before that up in higher spaces. When planetary grids get damaged to the point where planets can't bring in the frequency during stellar activation cycles that they're supposed to, they go into an implosion cycle where progressively all the frequency builds up at their core until the core implodes on itself and the planet goes into supernova. All right, it becomes a star again and it blows up. Now, there are things that were going to happen here because of some major things that have been being done for several million years within this universal structure. That required, if they were going to save Earth, Terra, Gaia, if they were going to save this Stargate system, the universal Stargate system here that ran from D11 is where the problem started, 11.5 actually, between that and D1, so it didn't literally its template become destroyed. There was a system of crystal pylon temple networks put in through the inner God worlds, what we call the echo worlds, the ones that run up that center pillar. And those frequencies would be run through their big crystals into certain parts of the planetary grids that they were connected to during stellar activation cycles, so the planet could have a natural stellar activation cycle, and the parts of the grid on the planet that couldn't process the natural frequencies that would come in, they would go into the crystal pylon temples in the inner earth, circulate through there, and come back out, downstepped. So the planetary grids could still use them, but they wouldn't blow them up. The Halls of Amente stargates were put into the natural stargate system in order to allow this planet to evolve back to its divine blueprint. Because if this one goes down and several others that have the same problem within our universal Cathara grid, literally the whole Cathara grid would go down. And what I mean by go down, I'll talk about that a little later in the Metatronic part, but there's a very specific meaning to what does go down mean, okay? I mean, we're all in God, we know that, right? You either go home whole or as space does, but you're still home.
Welcome back. Thanks for being here and thanks for allowing me to be a part of your journey. So I'm going to get into this quick because I'm getting dark. I've left it pretty late. So that had a section relative to the solar system and gates and all that sort of stuff. And what I'm wanting to talk about is Maldek, the fifth planet, alright? Because what I realized, okay, you know the whole men is for Mars, women are for Venus, relationships are about that. That's just sacred bullshit perspective, false teaching sort of crap that we just accept, alright? And I'm being blunt, getting to the point, but from my perspective, Earth is always responsible for the relationships for man and women. We've just been blocked from her from many ways, and we worked out more relative to the moon, alright? So we've never had a true connection to Earth for a very long time, and I would say since the Ayani massacre. But before that, and Ash just talks about the dates and that, and in the last video I said Stargate 12 for me is in Israel, like the Balfour Agreement was the loop before World War II to set that up, right? But it's said to be in Montsegur, Paris or France, and I have an affinity for the Cathars. One of the very first videos I did with Andrew was about the Cathars. There's this awesome show called Labyrinth from 2012. It's a 2-part series which is all about that, and it really triggered a lot. It was all about past lives and bleed through and all that sort of stuff, but Andrew said the Cathars were competitors to Rome and that's why they got taken out. It's nothing to do with Stargates and all that sort of stuff. But so that was one of the big things I offered in the last video about Stargate 12 from my perspective, okay? Because look at all the conflicts. If it is the apex sort of thing, then them guys being in Europe and England is to reverse Stargate 11 and blow up all the universe sort of thing, if it's like a dead man switch, right? But what I appreciated from this working out that the moon is Woormwood, and we just, like, it's just all vague, like Nibiru's got to be on the Phantom Matrix, so Woormwood is on the other side of it. And Woormwood is a construct, like a satellite sort of thing, and it's out there doing all this stuff. And what I'll invite, it's not so much about the vast in the galaxy and stuff, it's all about the solar system in this instance, right? So she talks about what Nibiru is, and in that last video it talks about the attack on Nibiru and stuff like that. So if you listen to that and then listen to this and take notes and stuff, like that one was a very dense one. Download for a big reason. Okay, so let's just focus on this. So what I got was Woormwood is actually the skull of Maldek, and Maldek was like Earth's brother or lover, probably brother, and it was the divine masculine in this solar system. Mars is awesome, right? My attitude here was the little brother of Maldek, or little brother of Earth. Still packs a punch, right? But Maldek was the defender of the solar system. We'll just get to the point, and these are all concepts that we appreciate from the planets from a bigger level. So they destroyed Maldek and made it a lesson, right? It's a bit like what they did to the Ayani. I haven't offered the full Ayani massacre just yet, but they used the men as leverage over to impose the submissiveness of the feminine, okay? Right? So distorted sexuality and stuff, right? So you imagine like it's Earth's brother or lover that was violently destroyed and left the bones in the solar system as a reminder of what we do to those who oppose us, okay? And my attitude is they took a part of Maldek, the skull, and they made the skull like the weapon and the guardian, right, of the solar system to suppress Earth and stuff like that. So there's all this mystery about, oh, it's just so vague and all that. I'm offering it's that, okay? And if I'm wrong, I'll say it, you know, but let's just explore it, that this is a possibility, and I'll offer these perspectives and we'll see what happens, right? So I'm just going to move on. So if the moon is a masculine, right? If it's the brother or the lover and it's masculine, right? Just think of what they've done on the sexual level, right? So masculine is electric, feminine is magnetic, right? From energetic level of things, right? So if you look at what the effect of the moon going around Earth does, it actually sucks or draws, makes the water gravitate to it. So it's being charged with a magnetic frequency to draw in the electric grid that was over the surface, right? And I said in August 22nd we were able to break through that and take control over it, get the magnetic grid over the feminine planet, so to speak. But just imagine this is how it's been for so long. So just think about the tides and the water memory and stuff, and the magnetic wiping of the water and stuff. So the whales are all the wisdom keepers and all that sort of stuff, right? So this object going around us and wiping it, and with this charge, just think about the effect of it on Earth, right? If it's foreign, okay? All the things it does. And then if you appreciate the Ayani massacre was the last takedown of the last stronghold on the surface of the planet, right? So Earth has been colonized ever since. The women were taken to breed because the Leviathan thing has always been about breeding codes to create the body tech that controls no matter what soul is occupying the body, right? To get the codes to control the grid points and stargates on the planet. So what I'm inviting is, since then, just think, this whole planet has become a breeding planet. All the women has had their DNA modified, like the Babylon massacre wiped us all and all that sort of stuff. So just think about the women's cycle, you know, from Ash's perspective, and I would love to find that part that I said Captain Marvel found, but the whole 9-month cycle is all designed to breed children more quickly and regularly, to create warriors and get all the codes and all that sort of stuff, which isn't natural, alright? So it is what it is. And just think about, you know, I can only appreciate it from what you awesome sisters out there say, but the cycles of the 28 days relative to the moon and stuff, of how much that destabilizes you from your focus and your power and all that. And then if you appreciate that clip that I included of Sabrina about, you know, the bloating of energy harvest of the cycle and stuff like that, how much is done to you and the guys as well on a more subtle level of all that, alright? So from my perspective, it's all controlled, tethered back from Nibiru. So I need to get on. It's obviously getting dark. So I've got this other image. This is more the Death Star stuff. So I talked about Maldak being violently killed and it traumatizing Earth, okay? So what I get is, and what we worked out was, they were broadcasting that frequency of the trauma to Earth through the NASA Deep Space Network ports, alright? So there's one outside Canberra and one LA worked out, actually going there after I did that, or before that video, but after it as well, was that the location of that site was on a massive intersection of song lines, alright? So what they've been doing with this distorted masculine, feminine, magnetic energy is actually through the Death Star point is broadcasting that trauma to Earth to lock down all the song lines and the ley lines, alright? So I would go investigate that and look at those points around the world, and when the moon goes around the Earth, it's broadcasting all that, alright? So I would say a lot of those like those broadcasting receiving stations are actually receiving frequency sort of stuff in very specific grid point locations relative to the song lines and others, and so it's all being controlled from there. So just think about all the distorted sexuality stuff going on in the world to children and all that. People don't know what's going on, alright? From my perspective, it's all coming from there, and it's all coming right in our neighborhood. And so just think about this is the other massive thing, alright? And I'll probably wind it up because it's getting dark and stuff, alright? So you women out there, you think about how many spiritual things you've been to, thinking that the moon is good and it's a part of our cycle and life and stuff, that you've actually done ceremonies relative to the moon. How many have you done in your past lives? Like this one LA, when we worked all this out, it was like back when they imposed this on us after the Aoni massacre, they used to put women in sort of a crucifixion style thing with naked for a cycle of the moon, with their feet tied together and their arms out, so there would be a bit like how they put the bells for time to ring. They would put women in that crucifixion sort of state to actually experience the moon energy for a month, to embed it into the DNA, to be breeders and stuff like that. The other thing is, this awesome person is, after that October 7th, their child was haunted in dream time after, and it was like there was shit that we missed and stuff. And long story short, when we got to the session and we were tracking that all back, it found out that the individual that was cloaked was a lady that was hosting moon ceremonies 18 months ago, and what she could perceive in that dream was that she was marked, her womb and all that, through time, and then it therefore went and marked her children to then be targets of the system and haunted, right? So I would invite, if you've got haunting issues and targeting of your children and stuff, have the courage to explore if you've ever been to like a spiritual moon related initiation or ceremony or anything like that, even in the past lives. And that's been the invite to actually be distorted on this level, that these guys all know about Thoth and all that, alright? So just like, how does that context help you? How does that sit with you? How do you think? Have you assumed that the moon is good and it's been very bad element, corrupted element, that your naivety was used against you, that you had no idea that this has been a variable that's been at play all along, that these guys have all known about? The key is, and it's getting dark and I'm just going to round it out because apologies for it being dark, but it's been a real tough couple of weeks and I've got a lot more to say, but this will be good for you guys. But as I said in the last video, there's a lot of people out there who've got a lot to answer for what they've been in the spiritual community. Kid you not, like the freaking object orbiting the planet that we can all see, and these guys have absolutely no idea about this, alright? How much more are you going to give them the benefit of the doubt and stuff like that? Do you have doubt now? So with that thing about the moon and ceremonies and you're naively compromising all the stuff around you, okay? Don't feel bad about it. Feel empowered by knowing this. And say if you do the revocation that I've done, this is a big thing as well. Like I've sort of put images on my front service servantoftruth.org page of all the 22D sort of thing. When you see 12D in my revocation, do it at 22D now, right? But just feel empowered that you know this is a potential variable, and then if you do the revocation, if you feel comfortable about employing my technology, right? Then with this context, see what violations you can clear in yourself now, right? But yeah, it's getting very dark, and it's an achievement for me to be here and be with you once more. I'm just going to round this out, and what I said will probably do. If I do it, I'll offer about a half-hour clip of that Asha stuff that I said was pretty good and had a lot of information. That will be another study sort of information thing for you. But yeah, the moon, guys. I'm not sure what I'll call this, but it'd be the moon and maybe their influence on Earth Mother and ourselves and us. Yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been empowering. I hope it's another variable that expands your discovery of the unknown and unlocks so much more in you. It's a really hectic, epic time to be alive. And I know with working with Earth Mother the last couple of weeks, you may think she's precious, but what she imparted to me was how precious I am for being willing to know what I know and all the sacrifices I've made and stuff. And that goes for everyone that has pursued truth to this level to even find me. Right? And anyone else like this that are having the courage to speak their truth amongst what is going on. Because as I said early on, the falsehood is, and the working from the unknown are only operating from the unknown, and we're creeping into their sort of sanctuary that they've had all along. So they're the ones that are terrified for you and I, for us willing to contemplate these things and no fear of being wrong, right? So I want to thank you for being here, and thank you for you as always allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope you get something from this. I apologize for it being in the dark. It took me a long time to get set up to do this, and I'll probably offer more on this and maybe a better version of it. We'll see what happens, alright? But thank you for being here. Earth honors you, I can assure you, alright? Don't underestimate how precious you are to her if you've never allowed that. No matter where you are in your journey or what you think of me and all that. Know that in yourself, in that heart of yours, that you are precious to her. And we have good times ahead, guys. So best of luck. Until next time, Andre out.
We're going to go back into the good stuff, the fun stuff. I like this stuff because this is the solution. And it's also joy, for me anyway. If I could share that joy, get that joy, the frequency of that joy out to you, I would feel I've done my job well. Because there is a joy in knowing the God world maps. They may be a little, how do they work again? If we can just understand each one of those maps, that we showed you is a step on a staircase. It's a staircase of energy, but it's a staircase of reality fields as well, just like this is a reality field. It's our stairway home. It's our stairway to heaven and beyond. It's our stairway back into full at oneness. If you can understand that, the next piece is going to show how it applies directly to your body. We've learned about the stargates in our universal, on the universal level. This graph shows us the galactic level. So see the interface here, you have the universal one, and then here at that 90-degree angle, we've got the galactic one coming out. This thing here, this line here in the graph, is the top half of the galactic Merkaba. This is the thing that keeps the planets spinning around the sun. This is what generates the gravitational fields in the centers of suns that has planets revolving around them. This is high physics stuff that our science hasn't figured out why that gravitational force is there. They know it's there. They're observing the outside phenomena, but they don't understand the template phenomena on the inside yet that's making these forces happen. So we are here. It's like one of those maps you get, you know, the fire exit maps. You are here, little X. Here is where you want to go, right? Well, we are here on Earth. Stargate, Universal Stargate number 3, and Galactic Stargate number 3. So this is our position. Here's the sun. This is Sol, and this, right through the density, right up over the density barrier, right through the void, is its twin, Rabizod, Tara's sun. So these are connected. There would be a set of stargates that actually this would be stargates that run this way. In the void there would be a crystal seal, like a seed crystal seal, like you have in chakras in the body, that made a funnel going up this way and a funnel going this way. So there's a stargate interface. That means there's a density lock in here. It's actually here. This is what you'd have to pass through to get to the next density. So you couldn't just go toward this, let's say gate 5, because we know exactly where that is when you look up in the sky. This is Alcyon in the Pleiades. That would be Tara. You can't just go this way. You have to go through the lock. They would take you in to the next density. Or you'd go one and space would curve. All right? This is where space-time curves. When you send things way out on space shuttles, eventually they will come back to you. Maybe in pieces, but they will come back. All right. So anyway, this gives us a basic orientation to, okay, where's our galaxy in relation to all this? Well, our galaxy is here. This is the universal one. There's the list of the other star systems. When we look up there, the identified star systems that those gates apply to. This is where the parallel interface takes place. This is where the first big cross would be, where you have the 4 of them. That's our primal light fields. That's theirs up there. That's not on the map. Knowing this, the next level, the only level we need to plug it in is, okay, our planet has a grid like this too in it, which means there are, there's 12 places on this planet that have stargates that interface directly with the stargates of the same number on the galactic level, on the universal level, etc. These grids all interconnect in frequency, like spirals of frequency that connect them, invisible frequency, that when those gates open, literally they create standing Merkaba fields where you can move into it, and if you have the coding where you don't incinerate, it will allow you to use your mind, to use the coding, to activate the right mathematics to move you through it and get you where you want to be on the other end. It's a very intricate science, actually, when it gets to, okay, now we know we can move. What are the codes and what is the sequence of codes you need? If you're standing in a Stargate and it's time to say, okay, I'm going to go where? How do I get through that density block before I can get to the gate that I want to go to? And once I get to the gate, let's say I want to go to Venus. Well, if you wanted to go to Earth from Venus, Earth is a big place when you get here. Be more specific. There's a way to be specific this is where a whole set of codes called crux codes comes in. We're not going to be given crux codes yet. We can't use them yet anyway. We need to learn how to use the Veka and Eka codes that open the frequencies in our system that would allow us to stand in a Stargate, to have the opportunity to make a decision of, okay, what place do I want to land once I go? This is the beginning of that process. Well, we'll show you next. I'd like to show you the planetary gate one. There's one that has the planetary gates on it. Let me see what page that's on. Alrighty. Now, this is our universal Cathar grid over here, and it has gate connections. I believe this one has the universal level, is the big one, like the big letters. Underneath it, it gives you, where you see an R after a thing, ignore that for now, I'll talk about that later. But where you see GSG, that's Galactic Stargate. So it shows you where the Galactic Stargates interface. Now our Galactic Stargates, the ones that were listed on there, we have Galactic Stargate 1 is Mercury, Galactic 2 is Venus, Galactic 3 is Earth, Galactic 4 is Mars, Galactic 5 was a planet called Maldak. Maldak was here a while back, and I forget, it was in seeding 2, human seeding 2 on Earth, that it was destroyed in a major war with the Anunnaki races. It was destroyed for a reason. It was part of a plan. A plan they put the next phase in our seeding 3. Maldak was a planet. It used to be here. I'll show you where that is on the other one too, that graph that we just took. I want to show you where the galactics run after you see them here. I'll show you how that applies to here. Oh, I'm sorry.
Marduk, the same as Sumerian Marduk, M-A-R-D-U-K, is that the same?
I don't know. I'd have to see that word written and find out more about that. It might be. There's usually, if it's something similar in spelling or sound, there's usually a connection. If it's not exactly that, it's connected to something to do with it. So if you could write that down for me and, like ask the question, like just write the question down, I would come back to that at some point because I'm curious too. I don't know. Anyway, so we're on Galactic Stargate 5. Used to be in a planet called Maldak that would have been between this is where the asteroid belt is now. The asteroid belt is part of what's left of Maldak. The other part of Maldak we're going to learn about tonight in Metatronics. The other part of Maldak is now known as Woormwood. All right, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's another part of Earth that was Terra, actually Terra in density 2, which remember is Alcyone when we look up in Pleiades. Once upon a time, there was another place, another piece of Terra. Terra almost blew apart completely. One of its pieces became a planet called Tiamat. So anybody that has been studying any Nibiruan-based, Pleiadian Nibiruan-based New Age teachings, you will find reference to their planet Tiamat that Earth used to be half of, therefore Earth belongs to them. Does not, but that's their story. There's false history being put out here by channels who don't realize who they're talking to. Some of them do, but most of them don't. So all of these things, you'd be amazed at what this stuff ties into. The work that other people are doing, I didn't even know. And one level of revelation after another is, oh my God. It's like, is anybody going to like me on this planet? Because what it ended up being was we're exposing things that showed what other movements were about. And we thought like certain movements, I thought they were good guys. And you find out that, oh my God, they're working this agenda, and even worse, oh no, I'm on the other side. I don't want to be on the other side of anybody. I just want to love people, So anyway, all this stuff ties in with a bunch of history pieces that are coming from various different directions in the New Age movement and the UFO movement. Tiamat is, we don't have to worry about that right now. We'll talk more about that when we get into the Woormwood issue. So the other half of Maldak is now called Woormwood, and we'll find out by the end of the night where that is, what that is, and why we need to know. That's the thing that was mentioned in the Bible, in Revelations, that had to do with the end time scenario. All right. Our Universal Stargate 6 of Sirius B, it's Jupiter here. That was the 6th planet. When you put Maldak where it belongs, that was the 5th planet. This would be the 6th one. The 7th and the galactic level is Saturn. The 8th on the galactic level is Uranus. The 9th is Neptune. The 10th is Pluto. And something very interesting with these two has taken place. There was a planet in the 11th position that was originally called Chiron. C-H-I-R-O-N. There was a planet in the 12th position, the 12th planet, called Nibiru. There were things done over a course that you'll see when the wars took place, that these alterations in our galactic structure were done by certain forces that were progressively taking over this system. Nibiru was literally using major Stargate nasty technology stuff that if you can use Christos physics, you take the Christos away from it and invert it, you can do some nasty stuff with Keylontic science when you pervert it. You can move planets. You can destroy planets. You can suck galaxies into black holes. So, once upon a time, Chiron was planet 11, Nibiru was planet 12. Now, at certain periods in time that we'll talk about later, this planet was a small planet. It was broken into two pieces. One piece of it was put in orbit around Pluto, and it is now one of Pluto's moons called Charon. Nibiru was bumped into the 11 position because they needed it there for a certain thing called the beast that we'll talk about later. The other piece of Chiron, one became Charon, Pluto's moon. The other piece is a thing that our scientists have recently spotted between, where is it? Between Saturn and Uranus, I believe, isn't it? It's on the other graph. I believe it's between Saturn and Uranus. It is a body of some sort that our scientists have discovered floating around in a really weird orbit, like kind of an erratic type orbit between these two planets in our galaxy. So this was a natural Stargate structure. We originally had Chiron up there and Nibiru up there. This has been altered from its normal, natural, divine blueprint because there's a very big technology in operation here that we'll talk about later. But I want you to know where. These are the universal Stargates. These are the galactic ones. So you see where they fit. Now the planetary ones. And there's something else called Q sites. With a history that we'll cover bits of tonight, you'll understand why the halls of Amenti were created. The need for them arose 550 million years ago down here. They were created before that up in higher spaces. When planetary grids get damaged to the point where planets can't bring in the frequency during stellar activation cycles that they're supposed to, they go into an implosion cycle where progressively all the frequency builds up at their core until the core implodes on itself and the planet goes into supernova. All right, it becomes a star again and it blows up. Now, there are things that were going to happen here because of some major things that have been being done for several million years within this universal structure. That required, if they were going to save Earth, Terra, Gaia, if they were going to save this Stargate system, the universal Stargate system here that ran from D11 is where the problem started, 11.5 actually, between that and D1, so it didn't literally its template become destroyed. There was a system of crystal pylon temple networks put in through the inner God worlds, what we call the echo worlds, the ones that run up that center pillar. And those frequencies would be run through their big crystals into certain parts of the planetary grids that they were connected to during stellar activation cycles, so the planet could have a natural stellar activation cycle, and the parts of the grid on the planet that couldn't process the natural frequencies that would come in, they would go into the crystal pylon temples in the inner Earth, circulate through there, and come back out, downstepped. So the planetary grids could still use them, but they wouldn't blow them up. The halls of Amenti Stargates were put into the natural Stargate system in order to allow this planet to evolve back to its divine blueprint. Because if this one goes down and several others that have the same problem within our universal Cathara grid, literally the whole Cathara grid would go down. And what I mean by go down, I'll talk about that a little later in the Metatronic part. But there's a very specific meaning to what does go down mean, okay? I mean, we're all in God, we know that, right? You either go home whole or as space does, but you're still home. We'll talk about where down is, because it is a place. So, anyway, the crystal pylon temple networks of inner Earth interface with Earth at 12 points in Earth's grids. What they do is they control the activation of a corresponding one of Earth's Stargates. In order to get a Stargate to activate here, because they have security seals on them, because if they just tried to activate normally, the place would blow up because the grids are so damaged. The Q site area, which is beneath the Q site, actually, when you look at where the inner Earth God worlds were in that one diagram up here, where'd that one go? Oh, I just had it there. Okay, I want to show you something. Yeah, that one. All right, here we go. Back to this one. All right, up here would be the spatial placement in the hologram of where that inner Earth Cathara grid is, okay? If you could picture a frequency bridge that would come from each one of those 12 gates of inner Earth that run up this way. You only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be over here, 8, 9 would be here. That's 14 goes with that one, but 9 and 14 are in the same place. So it goes this way. There's 12 points as a cathar grid. Imagine 12 frequency beams that would come down and focus. They would come down through the gates here. They would focus into the planetary Templar and the places in the galactic Templar that needed them. When a stellar activation cycle would happen, which would naturally send frequencies down through here, but through the normal structure, if this normal structure was damaged, the frequencies would come, they'd become erratic, and they'd blow things apart. They're like, you can imagine the crystal pylon temples as beautiful crystals that are up here, and these are physical. They're physical crystalline temples that they have a very ancient group of Melchizedek cloister priests run them. They're dedicated. I mean, their whole lives they live with the temples, and their lives are very, very, very long. Like, they don't die. So they stay there. If they get sick of the commission, they want to go elsewhere. Another one of the eternal races will come in. They are the continual guardians of these temples. They run them. They know how to run the chelantic frequencies. They know how to use the symbol codes. They know all of the codes that go with every crux code in this universal structure. They're awesome. I can't imagine holding that kind of information in my head in one place. But these are pillars of frequency run down from there through the gates here, stabilizing whatever ones of the major Stargate planets that have any grid disruption, which is all of them at this point, because of what's happened in the last 570 million years. That's when big trouble started. We had trouble before that, but big trouble started 570 million years ago. We'll talk about that later. Imagine the frequency pillars coming down. They stabilize the higher universal gates, but then they come down and they interface here. They stabilize some of these. They're not running the right way. There's something wrong with the one in Jupiter. Now, they were supposed to come down this way, pillars of energy, come over this way, stabilize these, and come into the planetary Templar, where they would stabilize with arcs of energy the planetary shields, so they could activate, and what the shields couldn't process would run back up through inner Earth, so it didn't get stuck in Earth's core to cause implosion. And it was a structure that would allow this time matrix and this planet to evolve back into its natural divine blueprint. And the halls of Amente would have to be used only until the planet had got its divine blueprint fully restored. Now, there was another way to restore the divine blueprint. There was a quick, fast way. But if it happened, there would have been there was a promise made that we'll talk about later, of a healing cycle. That if the divine blueprint was originally reset when problems started to happen, there would have been a massive series of races that would have been lost and gone back to space dust and lost their Christos evolutionary potential. Because they were loved so much, there was a risk taken to keep a certain danger open so things could be healed and evolve out of it, even though it left a vulnerability in our time matrix. That vulnerability became like a cancer. It began to eat away at the natural divine blueprint in this time matrix. We'll show you what that is in a little while. But to understand the halls of Amente, and this is exciting, the halls of Amente are wonderful places to be, because they would be the natural pathways that if they didn't need to beam extra frequency in to hold things stable, like pillars of energy that hold things stable, the halls of Amente interface system always did or the natural Earth Stargate system in our galaxy always did interface with the inner Earth systems anyway, through this apparatus. But it's like running beams down through here, to hold templates together until they can heal. Just like kind of like putting a splint on a broken bone. Until if you're going to put pressure on it, it'll just, break again. Same thing with frequency. If you get the planetary grids fixed a little bit, but they get bombed with frequency coming from stargates that transmits a lot of frequency, it'll break it again. It'll crush the template again. So the halls of Amente in the crystal pylon temples were put in to stabilize the planetary grids until we could evolve back to the divine blueprint of this planet and this universal system. Now, the Q sites and Stargate sites, which are called signet sites. The Stargate in official terms is called a signet. All right, Stargates and signet sites there's 12 of each. There are 12 natural signets or Stargates on the planet, and there are the 12 interface Q sites that you have to activate the Q site which means activate the crystal pylon temple that it's connected to. Bring frequency from that crystal pylon in inner Earth before you can activate the Stargate here. Because if you tried to activate a Stargate directly, if it activated on the sun directly, the planet would end up imploding. So we have Q sites that are the activation sites for the Stargates. The 24 most important places on the planetary Templar are the 24 points, the 12 points of the Stargates and the 12 Q sites that go with them. They gave us these first. Let me show them. Put that one back on. I just had, please. Okay. Anybody's wondering why we're moving to England. Stargate Signet Site 11, Southern England. The first point was the Vale of Pusey. We can get more specific now. It's called Milk Hill. It's where we did the last activity at the workshops. I forget when it was that we were there. We've been all over the place. Last July. Okay, yeah. I have to really think. I keep trying to sign 2003 when I write a date these days. Milk Hill in Alton Barnes, right?
Yeah, near Alton Barnes.
Okay, near Alton Barnes. Okay. That is the area of Stargate 11 in Southern Ireland. In Southern Ireland, it's called the Island of Eye, or the Eye Island, in the Irish Sea, where we did the other part of the work. That's Q Site 11. Right now, because of what is happening, we'll talk about later more in detail with the Metatronics, this is becoming the most important site on the planet. This is the site of the Mother Ark, let's say. Think of Noah and boats, and then think that that's an analogy, and not think boats anymore. Think arcs, like the arcs of the scepters, the scepter arcs, or we say scepter arcs. Think arcs of energy, arcs of light. If you remember, I'm sorry.
Is that the one we were in last year?
Yeah, it's in the it was in the Vale of Pusey area.
You mean Ireland as well?
That's.
Just the Vale of Pusey.
There is a Q site that is the activation site for the Stargate,
right.
And then there is the Stargate itself.
Right.
Okay, Pusey in England, or actually the Alton Barnes area when they narrowed it down. That is the Stargate.
Yeah.
That can't activate by itself because it's damaged. The Ireland's Eye Island is the Q site. That is where, now those sites directly interface with portals that go directly to inner Earth. All right, so the Q sites are the main gate sites to inner Earth, as well as being where these frequencies run through to help the grids. You can get there through the Stargates, and there's millions of portals and little portals and cross paths and all sorts of smaller networks that connect all these things. So you don't have to just be on those sites to get to inner Earth. However, these are the sites that all the other sacred sites on the planet interface with and draw their energy from. These are the most important sites. These are the control sites for all the other little groups of control-y things that they have going on, and there's bunches of those. We'll talk about those too later. Anyway, so, So if you remember, in fact, let me put that one graph back on. There's one thing I want to show you that'll help the discussion later. Now, remember, this was, Gate 11 was in England, right? We're going to put that back up to just real quick go over the other ones. Okay, remember planetary Stargate 11 is England, and its Q site is the one in Ireland. 11 connects with what is now, what is now a black hole, because Nibiru's not there anymore either. Once they moved it from level 12 from being the 12th planet, knocked it into the orbit of what used to be the 11th planet after they took Chiron and split it into Chiron and Charon and got it out of that orbit. This gate connection is now, the gate hole will remain, the passageway, even if the planet around it is gone, but it won't function properly. Now, what needs to be done is an interface where from the center point in the inner Earth, for the center point in the inner Earth up there, the 13th, where you see that 13, the 12, 13, there needs to be a major arc of frequency run through this connection, through our 11th universal Stargate, which is Avion in Lyra, and that's one of the smaller ones. I think we have the name of that somewhere. Sheliak, I think it's the name that our scientists have given it, but it is one they've identified. All right. The frequency needs to run down through here through this system, and it's going to come down through the locks. They're going to bring it in through the lock. This is a lock that's between density, the higher densities. There's a lock here, a lock here, and a lock here. It's going to come down through the middle section, through the locks. And it's going to go through our solar gate over here, and it's going to come in this way. And this arc of frequency is intended to stabilize. It's going to close this by anchoring into this orbit, the original orbit that used to be Nibiru. There's a few things that have to be done to make this successful. It'll create an arc of stabilizing energy that will allow the Rushe scepter pillars from the Akasha Ea level, the gates that connect all the way down, to allow those to be opened, brought into the center of the crystal pylon temple network in inner earth. And then that arc of energy will be consolidated and sent through into our galactic, our universal stargates, through our galactic ones. It will stabilize our planet and the rest of this 15-dimensional time matrix. It's a big project, guys. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of go, oi. Yeah, my brain gets tired just thinking about it. But we all have our part to play, and our little parts are just as important as the bigger parts. Now, England is so important because the Gate 11, that used to be where Sharon was, which is now a hole that's going to be filled up with this arc that comes through. The arc's going to come through, loop back through there, and come into each of the planets on the 11 level and loop around, hooking them each back into their natural level, natural 12 gate on the planetary level. What's going to happen in England and Ireland? It's going to come through the Q site first and then go into the gate. That huge arc of energy is going to come through this way, go this way. And by the way, I didn't know this before. It's coming through live. This way, here this way. Going to go through 11, travel back down through the locks, not the gates, but the locks. It's going to go into Earth. There's a small lock right here. There's the little tiny locks, and there, the dimensional locks. It's going to go through into the Earth's Cathar grid, and the place it's going to come in first is Ireland, and it's going to loop right through into England, and it's going to loop right over into France, Montsegur, where Stargate 12, planetary Stargate 12 is. It's going to go to Montsegur and to Q-Site 12, which is Kauai, Hawaii. At the same time, it's going to split and do that. These are the frequencies that are going to allow us to anchor the 12 Rushe pillars here, because what those pillars of frequency will do, through the gates being open, is it will hold intact the templates here while the divine blueprint is being reset. And it will prevent something that the other side, those who choose to call themselves the other side, are trying to do, that we'll talk about in a little while. It has to do with the beast that I've mentioned before but haven't explained yet, but I will.
Heading for the city lights, 975. We're sharing each other, mirrors and father. Scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, fostering in every boy and girl. All rejoicing in the world. Take me now.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.